Uh-oh.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I am sincerely grateful and honored and happy to be back with you again. And thank you for all these Savites who are reconfiguring the universe according to the climate. I'm so grateful to all of you for taking so much trouble to be here. And thank you, Gaurvani, Prabhu, and Brindarani Devi. And to Revati and Kairava and Kirtan Singha and everybody for arranging this beautiful program tonight.
Haribo!
I was wondering what to speak about. And seeing you all moving around so spontaneously, I will speak about you. But life is so much determined by our perceptions. Because what happens in the world is most often out of our control. We have a tiny little orbit, let us say a small bubble that we might be in, where we have very, very limited control. But the rest of the universe is beyond our control. And the nature of the false ego and a society directed by false egos is we consider happiness to be those things that are within our control. Within our control means things should go the way we want them to be. Or at the worst, not so much unlike what we want them to be. And therefore Krishna tells in Gita, Dukkalayam Shashvatam. Because of that mentality, this creation is a place of misery. Because everything is temporary. We can't really hold on to anything. We're attracted, we become attached, we fear losing it, we become addicted to it, and then we lose it. That is in regard to our wealth, our possessions, our youth, our health, our loved ones, everything. There's actually no exceptions on the material platform. History is a list of dead people's names. And when we study history realistically, we get some glimpse into how short our life really is. Padam padam yadvipadam natesham. It's guaranteed that our life is short. If we could live 100 years, those last years are hardly living. But actually, danger and death could come at any moment to anybody and everyone. There's no degree of physical fitness, wealth, education, or power that could really guarantee our safety from moment to moment. So everything is changing. From a spiritual perspective, there's really no such thing as death. There's just various levels of change. Matter is not destroyed, it's just transformed. And the almighty power of God, or the supreme truth that is keeping everything constantly in this state of change, is time. Krishna says in Gita, time I am. So we're speaking about perception. We can see time as the all-devouring force of death that's going to take everything and everyone dear to us away. Or we can see time from the perspective of how Krishna describes himself. Suhridam sarvabhutanam. That he is the supreme, well-wishing friend of every living being. The only power we have to love each other or love anything or anyone is because the soul has within it a tiny particle of Sri Radha and Krishna's infinite, inconceivable, everlasting love for every living being. If we see time from the perspective of Krishna, who's playing with cows, sometimes he steals butter, and actually he always does it just at the right time. In the spiritual world, there's timing. Krishna waits till gopis are not in that room, and then he brings Balaram and all the friends, and they steal butter, and then timing, they're right when the gopis come back in, they're gone. And even when they're caught, it's always perfect timing. Because the time simply facilitates happiness, loving exchange. That's the essential reality that is underlying all of existence. And our soul is actually in that time zone. But our bodies are in this time where everything is changing, and if we identify with the physical manifestations of change, we live in fear and suffering. And within the realm of that fear and suffering, for those things that are under our power and go the way that we want them to go, we find pleasure. But in the illusory level of consciousness, those pleasures simply intensify the pain when it comes. Now, if that sounds pessimistic, it isn't. It's actually very optimistic. Srila Prabhupada, in a recording I just recently heard, he gave a definition of a Vaishnava. He said, a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, is one who expects problems and challenges at every moment. Now that sounds terrible. from the superficial conception. But actually, it's a wonderful state of consciousness when we put Krishna in the center of our life. Because it's inevitable that challenges and problems will come. If we're not expecting it, then we become very frustrated. Why is this happening to me? But if we're expecting it, you know, of course it's going to happen, no problem. And we go on with our life and we're happy. If we're not expecting problems and no problems come, how long will that last? But if we're expecting problems and no problems come, we're really grateful. We celebrate. In other words, we never take a good moment for granted. And both in good times and in hard times, knowing that they're always changing, we are alert and aware to the nature of the world, and we take shelter of Krishna. We take shelter of God in those moments. So this simple formula is the way actually to always be happy. When I heard this statement, that a devotee expects problems and challenges at every moment, and just before that I heard Srila Prabhupada say, Sarve Sukhano Bhavantu. That the whole Vedic culture and all of our teachings, its purpose is one. Let all beings be happy. So how are we supposed to be happy when we're always expecting suffering? That's the way to be happy. Because if we know, we're not expecting something unrealistic. It's for real. It will happen. It's inevitable. Therefore, we take shelter of Krishna. We take shelter of those who love Krishna. We take shelter of Krishna's holy names. We take shelter of Krishna's words. We take shelter of our service to God. Because when we do that, our consciousness is on a higher level. The Ishopanishad tells that we should cultivate knowledge and ignorance simultaneously. That's interesting, cultivating ignorance. That means understanding how this world works and why we get entrapped. And the more we understand that, the more we sincerely turn to God, give our hearts to God, and experience God, who is all attractive. Krishna. So why I'm saying all these things, I'm just saying. What I was leading to is all of you tonight. Because yesterday, the report came that it was going to rain today. For so many days, there was no chance of rain today. Now, I don't know if any of you have been looking at those weather report systems that everybody has in their pockets and everything. There was no rain today. And then yesterday, exactly this time of the day that we're sitting here, it said 60% chance.
Yes.
And we've had experience of the same program where there was literally deluges of storms and thunders and floods at this time. So there was actually discussion about canceling the program. Because if it rains, it's going to be really uncomfortable for people. So should we cancel it? Perception. Gaurvani Prabhu, Brindarani Devi, they came up with this incredible idea. Let's just tell everybody that this is not just a regular program. This is going to be a program for singing and dancing in the rain. Come, bring your umbrellas and be happy. And I could see now a lot of you are really disappointed because it's not raining. With that perception that we're coming to dance in the rain, then if it does rain, everybody will start cheering. And probably won't be falling asleep in my talk either. So what a difference. Either, oh, it's going to rain, everything's going to be ruined, or, oh, it's going to rain, we're going to dance and sing in the rain and celebrate. To adjust our consciousness to whatever circumstance comes. To see the opportunity to come closer to Krishna. That is what Bhagavad Gita and what all the saints and all the scriptures are telling us throughout history. To try to be happy by enjoying how things go the way we want them to be is depriving ourselves of the joy and the peace and the love of the soul. Savaipung sang paro dharmo yato bhaktir dhoksha jaya hoitaki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. The supreme dharma, the purpose of life, is that which brings about a transformation of consciousness where our joy in life is to love and serve Krishna. To the degree that the joy of serving Krishna is unconditional, unmotivated, and uninterrupted, it actually touches the soul and awakens the ananda, the joy of the soul. And it's so interesting, if we look at all of the great holy scriptures and all the lives of saints, acharyas, it's almost always in the context of difficulties. Let us take example of Prahlad. Prahlad lived a really long life. When he was just about 5 or 6 years old, he was made the king. He was an emperor, sitting on a throne, had a wonderful family, wonderful children, and he just lived a life of pure devotion in a context of luxury, peace. Everyone loved him. Everyone was trying to make him happy. How many pages in the scriptures are about that time of Prahlad's life? Essentially, the whole story, which is practically the entire canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is just those few months when Prahlad was 5 years old in school. And everything was against him. The most powerful military in the universe was trying to destroy a 5-year-old child. And the dictator, Hiranyakashipu, he was blaspheming him. He was committed to kill him, torture him, disgrace him in every way. And little Prahlad, you know what made Hiranyakashipu the most disturbed? Not only that he couldn't kill his little Prahlad, but he couldn't get Prahlad to even get angry at him. He couldn't even get that little boy to not like him. That was intolerable. But how he turned to God, and he gave this beautiful teaching in his prayers to Narsinghadev, that in this world, when people forget their relationship with Bhagavan, with Krishna, the solutions to the problems may solve the problem immediately, but in time, those solutions create bigger problems than the original problem. Look at the world today. So many of the most devastating, imminent problems and dangers of the world are built on the solutions to previous problems. Why is it that Sukadev Goswami talked about that place in Prahlad's life? Because that's what we need to hear. If we want to be, Sukadev Goswami is speaking that part of his life because of his compassion for you and me. And the Mahabharata, the Pandavas, their exile, so many difficulties. When we read about Hanumanji, most of the stories are not about when everything was nice and peaceful. The times of challenges. In the Holy Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament, it's mostly about challenges, about inconceivable difficulties that people are going through. The Quran is the same. Why? Is it to depress us? It's to expose ignorance for what it is and actually help us to seek joy in God's love, not in our own selfish egos. In this world, whether you're pious or impious, you still have to suffer. Piety does not save people for suffering. Sometimes, why does bad things happen to good people? Bad things happen to everybody. And that includes good people. From a spiritual perspective, piety is necessary because it's a stepping stone to transcendence. Sounds like there might be a really good festival today. Just, if you really don't want it to happen, you're going to suffer. But if you're just ready for it, this is going to bring us all closer to celebrating Krishna's mercy. Then it will be a festival. Yes. There's a beautiful story in Sri Chaitanya Mangala by Lochandas Thakur, where Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his devotees was having Sankirtan. They were chanting and they were dancing outside of the village of Navadvip. Suddenly, very dark rain clouds formed in the sky. There was thunder, lightning. And the devotees, they didn't have these tents. They didn't have any facilities. They were not even, 2-minute walk from Gauravani Prabhu's house. They were in the field, quite far from everything. And they were chanting and they were dancing and the rains were imminent. Lord Chaitanya, everybody was looking at him. Lord, here we are. You know what's best. And Lord Chaitanya just smiled, and he looked up at the clouds, and everyone was looking at him, and he was looking at the clouds. And he took someone's kartals, and he just chanted the Hare Krishna mantra, and all the clouds dispersed and disappeared, and the sun came out, and the kirtan was very, very... If those clouds didn't come, the kirtan could have never been the way it was after they went away. Now, if he wants the clouds to go away, they will go away. But if he wants it to rain, let it rain.
Yes.
Let it rain and rain and rain. One of the biggest crises that the world is facing today is drought. So many forest fires are devastating forests and homes due to drought, starvation, economic strife, disease. We live on rain. And creation is very instructive to how we should perceive life. Because rain is usually pretty inconvenient. Things get muddy, we get wet, but we can't live without it. The sunshine actually evaporates the water and creates the clouds and makes the rain. Everything is so interconnected. And similarly, happiness, distress, honor and dishonor, pleasure and pain, success and failure, pleasure and displeasure, they're all actually interconnected to give all of us the opportunity to seek the higher purpose of life and not become complacent and trapped in all of these common things that are just going on. The foundation of spirituality is very much based on what we value to be meaningful and important in our life. If we value that which is eternal, a connection to our souls, the souls of others, and samsiddhir haritoshanam. If we value pleasing God, whatever happens, I'm going to try my best. If that's our value, we're connected to eternal truth. If our value is how much money we have, or how much fame we have, or how many more years I have to live, we're being cheated. These things, they have their importance. But their importance really is true when they're in connection to the higher principle of truth. Jivera Swarupoi Krishnera Nityadas. That we're eternal servants of Krishna. That's the foundational principle of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. And our scriptures are filled with examples again and again and again. There's thousands and thousands of these examples. Why is that repetition so important? So that we'll take it seriously of what saintly people are teaching us to value. In the Satya Yuga, there was little Dhruva. He was also 5 years old. He was betrayed by the people who he loved and trusted. His heart was broken. He wanted revenge. He wanted wealth. He wanted power. He felt deprived. And he worshiped God under the instruction of Narada Muni, his guru. And then Lord Narayan, Prishnigarbha, appeared to him and told Dhruva, I'll give you everything you want. You worship me because you wanted fame and you wanted power and you wanted wealth. I'll give it all to you and more than anybody's ever had. And what was Dhruva's transformation? His value. He said, I was looking for the broken pieces of glass of the things of this world. Things means satisfying our passions, fame, influence over others, wealth, properties. He said, but I have achieved, I have received the rare jewel of loving service for you. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he specifically declared in the tree that is filled with the fruits of love of God, all the wealth in the entire creation, that means all the universes, cannot compare to a fraction of the wealth of the love of God that is within the heart of each and every one of us. And it's there. It's accessible to us. Why are we separated? Why don't we take the opportunity? Because we value all the distractions that's taking us away from that. Unless we really value that opportunity for prema, for ecstatic love for Krishna, will we invest in it? Will we invest our time, our energy, our life? People are investing so much just to get money and to get influence and to get physical fitness and all these other things we do. But something always happens. You're walking through the forest. It's a beautiful day. Just perfect temperature, nice breeze. The birds are singing. Everybody's nice to you that day. You're so successful. You're getting promotions. Everything is just right, and you're so happy, and you're full of good health. And then you step on a thorn. How many have done that? Now, if you take the proportion of your body, your body's nice, young, happy, healthy. That little, the amount of space that thorn takes in your body is insignificant. It's a speck. But still, your entire consciousness, you're not thinking, oh, my arm feels so good, my knee is so nice, my eyes are just feeling such pleasure. The only thing you could think about is that little tiny, maybe a millimeter of space where the thorn is. What does that tell us? That one little thing that goes wrong can spoil everything. And we can't even really appreciate anything else. That's the world. And you can't change the world. And there's no use complaining about it. Because the opportunity is there. But it's important that we value that opportunity. Bhajahure mana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Dulapa Manava Janama Satsange Tara Eva Sindure. The poet Govinda Das, who was a very beloved associate of Narottam Das Thakur Srinivasacharya. His brother was Ramchandra Kaviraj, very great saint. He's praying to his mind. My dear mind, please take shelter of Srinandanandan Krishna. Because in that shelter you become fearless. If we look at the problems of the world, so much of it is people reacting to fear. Fear of losing money, fear of losing reputation, fear of losing position, fear of losing the sense gratification, the pleasures that we're so attached to. Fear of losing loved ones, fear of losing our life. How much money? Cosmetics is just fear of not looking right. As far as I don't know that much, but I've never done that stuff. But it seems that way. And medicine. You know, how many billions and billions of dollars invested in medicine, and it's a good thing, but still it's motivated by fear. What to speak of the armies and the nuclear arsenals and nations and you know, I'm in Washington, D.C. right now, close by, so I don't want to talk about politics. There's so much fear. Fear of losing position, fear of losing power, fear of losing votes, fear of losing the influence of our ideologies. Govinda Das is praying, when you take shelter of Krishna, there's no more fear. And then in one little line, he tells us where to find it. That the human life is so rare. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending, however sophisticated we want to do it or however technologically advanced we do it, it doesn't touch the heart or soul. The human life is such a rare, special opportunity, atato brahma jigyasa, to understand the spiritual reality and the happiness that we're all looking for. Anandamayo Bhyashat. But the rarest thing in all of humanity is the association of people who inspire us with the knowledge, with the example, and with a practical lifestyle by which we can come closer to Krishna.
Oh, thank you.
There's nothing more valuable from the perspective of saints and scriptures and from God's view. There is nothing more valuable than the association of sincere devotees. Lord Chaitanya said that all the wealth in the entire universe does not compare to him in value to one devotee who has surrendered his or her heart. When we appreciate that, we are really on the path. The path of the love of the soul. There was a devotee who was Krishna's closest friend in both Mathura and Dwarka. His name was Uddhava. Uddhava, he had everything beyond anybody's expectation. His physical form resembled Krishna's. Krishna's all attractive. He's Shama Sundar. He's Mahasundar. He's Param Sundar. He's supremely beautiful. And Uddhava looked like Krishna. People would sometimes get him mixed up. Can you imagine having a body like Uddhava? And as far as his education, he was a favorite disciple, educated in knowledge by Brihaspati, who is the guru of the divine beings, the suras, the demigods. He was one of the greatest, most learned, enlightened scholars in creation. He was learned, he was young, he was handsome, he was a prince of the Yadu dynasty. He was Krishna's personal best friend and cousin brother. As far as family, prestigious family, the ultimate. Physical beauty, the ultimate. Education, the ultimate. Wealth, he had so much, everything. And because of his relationship with Krishna, people, everyone in Mathura and Dwarka gave him the highest honor and respect. Krishna sent him with a message to Vrindavan. And just to prove to the Brijavasis, the residents of Vrindavan, that he was in fact Krishna's messenger, Krishna gave Uddhava his own clothes to wear. How many of us does God personally give his clothes to? he gave the chariot that Krishna left Vrindavan with. Krishna gave that chariot to Uddhava to go back to Vrindavan. When he came to Vrindavan and he saw the nature of the love of the devotees there, he was astonished. Philosophically, he knew everything. He would have, sometimes all day, he would just talk with Krishna about every subject. But when he went to Vrindavan, here are these people who were crying in separation from Krishna. They felt abandoned by Krishna. What is the comparison? He's with Krishna all day, every day practically. He's going to be going back in a few days to be with Krishna all day, every day. And he's seeing these people who are feeling abandoned by Krishna. He left them. They're crying. Their love for Krishna was so deep. All they did is ask, how is Krishna? Will he ever come back? Does he think of his mother? Does he think of his father? Uddhava said to Nanda Maharaj, Krishna's father, you are so fortunate. Your love for Krishna is so deep. 24 hours a day, you're immersed in love and separation from Krishna. Nanda Maharaj chastised him. He said, Uddhava, you are just an ignorant little foolish child. For you to think that I'm fortunate. I had the rarest treasure of Krishna living in my house, and I didn't appreciate him, and now he's left, he's gone, and you're with him, and you're saying I'm fortunate? I am the most unfortunate. And Uddhava was thinking, I've come here to try to pacify them, but I'm actually making I'm making their suffering worse. But their suffering is due to such love for Krishna that their suffering is a greater happiness than any other happiness than anyone could ever experience, even in the spiritual world. So should I try to convince him not to cry? Or should I try to convince him to cry more and more and more? He just became silent. And the next morning, he met the cowherd boys and he saw their love for Krishna. And then the gopis took him into this beautiful forest. It's called today Uddhav Kyari, near Nandagram. And he saw the gopis' love. And he tried to read a message to pacify them, but he realized there's nothing to pacify. They are in the highest summit of spiritual perfection. And Srimati Radharani, a bumblebee. Have you ever seen, actually, for the first time in my life, just a month and a half ago, I saw this. Now, I'm 71 years old, and I've been to a lot of places, but I never experienced something like this. I'm shy to tell you what it was. But since it might rain, I'll tell you anyway. I was at Govardhan Eco Village, and I was walking up these steps to our a temple where we remember Badarsana, Srimati Radharani. And as I was walking up the steps, there was some trees, and I heard this humming, not buzzing, but humming. It was so beautiful. It was like if Sita, she plays the cello, and when she plays those perfect notes, like I looked up and there were bumblebees. They were really large, pure, beautiful, shining black bumblebees. They weren't flying, they were floating in the air. It was so beautiful. And they weren't crashing into each other. They were all like, there was probably a few dozen of them, but they were all a couple feet away from each other, giving each other, and they were just floating from one branch of the tree where there was some flowers, and they were drinking the nectar. And I will do injustice trying to make that sound. I sound like a monster, but they sounded so sweet. It was one of the most melodious sounds I ever heard in my life. I just decided this is where I'm going to be. It was just before the sunrise. And I was just sitting there on the steps with the bumblebees. And then I began to reflect how there are so many analogies in the scriptures about the beauty of the bumblebees in Vrindavan. Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys, when they would play, they would imitate the bumblebees. And Krishna could sound just like them. And they would hum with Krishna, and it's like a symphony. But it's just nature has such beautiful moments. And even though these moments are fleeting, in one sense we can say, what's the use of even enjoying the moments of pleasure when they're just coming and going like anything? That's the perception of renunciation. The perception of enjoyment is, since it's coming and going, let me enjoy to the highest degree I possibly can while it's here. That's called sense enjoyment, bhoga. But from a spiritual perspective, that moment is giving me such a special, intimate remembrance of God. So that moment is the most precious thing to seize and to hold on to and never let go of in the heart. It was 2 months ago. But I'm looking at all of you, but I'm just imagining those bumblebees, and it transformed my life, actually. Well, Srimati Radharani was in the forest of Uddhav-Kyari, and Uddhava was trying to pacify the gopis, and they were crying, and they were asking, why is Krishna not here? And we're trying to forget Krishna. We want to forget Krishna. We are longing to forget Krishna, but we cannot forget Krishna. He's stolen our hearts, and he's taken our hearts with him, and he's just left our bodies to just shrivel up without him. That would sound depressing if it was like in a Hollywood movie. But Uddhava was saying, this is the most ecstatic experience I've ever witnessed. And Srimati Radharani began to talk to the bumblebee, sending messengers, chastising Krishna through the bumblebee. Okay, now this is what I wanted to say. Uddhava is such a scholar. He's coming now from Mathura. Such a sophisticated, high-culture place. Kamsa's already dead. Ugrasen has installed the king. The Yadus, everybody's come back. Krishna and Balaram are living there. It is the spiritual world, the abode of happiness, and the abode of the greatest wealth, prosperity, and opulence. And Uddhava's seeing the gopis. He was thinking, they are so totally unsophisticated. They are simple. They don't really have much education. They're just simple village girls. But I want what they have. Uddhava went to a place near Govardhan Hill, and he cried and cried and cried, longing to have what the gopis have. And Uddhava Kund, it's filled with his tears of longing for the gopis' love. But how to get it? He wanted to serve them. But he is a royal prince of the highest aristocracy and Krishna's best friend. If he wanted to do something to serve the gopis, they would feel very embarrassed. They would feel very uncomfortable. He wanted to get the dust from their feet and worship it. But he would never do anything to make them feel bad. Uddhava, he prayed with all of his heart to be a gulmalata, a little shrub of grass on the ground near Govardhan of Vrindavan. And to be in that state so that the gopis, or the servants of the gopis, or the cows, they may step on his head. And he could just be as soft and as nice as possible to give pleasure to their feet. And it wasn't just poetic. It was real. He really wanted that, and his wish was fulfilled. To this day, he's still there as a shrub of grass at Uddhava Baitak is the name of the place. Now let us just examine this pastime. We're all sitting on grass. Is anybody thinking, I hope I'm not hurting the grass? Is anyone offering obeisances to the grass? Nobody cares until I even brought it up. Probably none of you was even thinking about the grass that you're sitting on and stepping on and dancing on. Grass is insignificant, and just a blade of grass. Uddhava was willing to trade his enormous wealth and palaces, his jewels, his gold. He was willing to leave his entire family, and he was willing to give up being Krishna's best friend if necessary. He was just to be a little piece of grass for the gopis to stand on. That's how much he valued serving the Lord's devotees who love him so dearly. And when he came back to Dwarka and Mathura, his desire was eventually fulfilled to be that gulmalata, that grass. But also, Krishna, he spoke the Uddhava Gita. We know the Bhagavad Gita. Well, another level up, because the Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study of the Bhagavad Gita, postgraduate study. And the 10th canto is the culmination. And the Uddhava Gita is the 11th canto. That means it's after the 10th canto is spoken by Sukadeva Goswami. Such profound instructions of the dialogue between them. But this was his heart. And this is why Krishna sent him to Vrindavan. And this is why he was actually the dearmost friend of Krishna. Because he wanted to take the humblest position to receive the blessings of the gopis, of the devotees. In Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes, he came as Paramananda Puri. Paramananda Puri, do I have time to speak about him?
No, we have to finish, Maharaj.
We do.
No, Maharaj. We want you to go on forever. There's no end. Time has stopped.
I wish I could honestly pray to be the grass under your feet. I'm not on that level. But I can aspire to. Lord Chaitanya is Radha Krishna. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. And he came with his eternal associates. When Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India on his tour, not far from what is now Madurai is the Rishabh Hill. That's actually the place that Rishabdev had his concluding pastimes long ago. And Paramananda Puri was there doing his bhajan on Rishabh Hill. And when Lord Chaitanya met him, the affection that they had for each other. Lord Chaitanya prayed to Paramananda Puri, please come to Jagannath Puri and let us live together forever. And Paramananda Puri said, I will come. So they were both traveling. And when Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu returned to Puri, he sent Kal Krishnadas, or actually Nityananda Prabhu sent Kal Krishnadas to Navadvip to inform the devotees that Mahaprabhu has returned after over 2 years of being traveling. And in those days, there was no Instagram. You know, when somebody would be traveling, you would hear absolutely nothing from them. Lord Chaitanya was gone for 2 years, and in Puri and in Navadvip, nobody knew where he was. There was no messages coming. They didn't even know if he was still in this world. And then he returned after 2 years, and Kal Krishnadas, he went to Navadvip. And at that time, Paramananda Puri came from South India, and he went to Navadvip to bathe in the river Ganges. He was staying at Sachimata's house, the mother of Lord Chaitanya. And Sachimata and Vishnu Priya was taking so much, they were cooking such good prasad for everything. And he got the news that Lord Chaitanya had returned to Puri. Advaitacharya, Srivas Thakur, everyone was saying, we will all go to Puri, and they were organizing their trip. But Paramananda Puri left on that day with one other devotee. He couldn't wait. And when he arrived in Puri, he came to the place where Lord Chaitanya was staying, Gambhira. Lord Chaitanya he bowed down, he did his Dandavat pranams to Paramananda Puri. Lord Chaitanya worshipped him. Lord Chaitanya's guru was Ishvara Puri, and his guru was Madhavendra Puri. And it is described by Srila Prabhupada in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that of all the disciples of Madhavendra Puri, among the sannyasis, the two dearmost were Ishvara Puri and Paramananda Puri. Lord Chaitanya worshipped him as his own guru. He was a god brother of his guru. And Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that the love of God that Lord Chaitanya came to bring to the world, Lord Chaitanya took the role of a tree, the trunk of the tree, the gardener of the tree, and the distributor of the fruits of the tree. And it describes Madhavendra Puri was the first sprout of the tree. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the trunk. But the trunk is resting on roots. There were 9 roots of the tree. 8 in the 8 directions around it. But the central root of the whole tree, under the tree, was Paramananda Puri. In Jagannath Puri, like Uddhava, because he was Uddhava, he was a constant associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sometimes Lord Chaitanya would take Paramananda Puri, they would embrace each other, and Lord Chaitanya would bathe him with tears of his affection. And Lord Chaitanya would sometimes say that I came to this world and I'm living in this world only because of the love of Paramananda Puri. Now, I would like to just examine this statement a little so that you're not confused. But sometimes my explanations make you more confused. We see this within spiritual literatures, historically, where there's very exclusive statements made. Lord Chaitanya is saying, I came to this world only because of the good qualities and the love of Paramananda Puri, and that's why I'm living. But Lord Chaitanya said the same thing about Advaitacharya. And he said the same thing about Srila Haridas Thakur. And he probably said the same thing to so many people. So how could that be? I'm only here because of you. It's a qualitative statement. It's not a quantitative statement. That's how we also perceive in the Christian literature the only begotten Son of God. That's a qualitative statement. The quality of the intensity of the love between the Lord and his devotee, it's not just poetic, that devotee is the only chosen devotee. Because Krishna's love is such a way, everybody could be the only chosen devotee who's totally exclusive, only you. Now, is it possible? Exclusive only you when there's tens and millions of other people in the exact same position? Materially, that's not exclusive. But spiritually, it is. Because that's the nature of Lord Chaitanya and Krishna's love. And by understanding this principle, we can appreciate that exclusivity and that intimacy as it applies to many by God's power of love and grace. And it could lift us up beyond sectarian conceptions. One day, Lord Chaitanya was with Paramananda Puri. He had a wonderful little ashram that he lived in, a Bhajan Kutir. Have any of you been there? It's on the western side of the Jagannath temple in Puri. Still there, Paramananda Puri's monastery. So I've been there many times, so I'm going to tell you about it. And what it says in our scriptures. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's there with his devotees. And Lord Chaitanya knows everything. He knew that Paramananda Puri had created a well that was there, and that the well was totally useless. Because we want to get water from a well. The well was bitter, it was muddy, it couldn't be used for anything. So Lord Chaitanya said to Paramananda Puri, please tell me, how is the water in your well? How many times do people ask that type of question? Paramananda Puri, he said, the water in my well, oh no. It's horrible. It's bitter, it's salty, it's muddy, it's contaminated, it's useless. Lord Chaitanya, he said, Lord Jagannath is a miser. I'm just quoting what he said. He said, because Lord Jagannath's Maya knows that anybody who touches or tastes the water that is being utilized by Paramananda Puri is going to be liberated from all sins forever. So therefore, Maya has made it so bitter and so salty and so muddy so that nobody wants to go near that water. And then Lord Chaitanya, with tears in his eyes, he raised his arms very high and he prayed, Lord Jagannath, my master, my Lord, I beg you for one benediction. Bring Mother Ganga, the Ganges River, to fill up the well of Paramananda Puri. And after saying this prayer, and all the devotees were listening, and when they heard Lord Chaitanya say that, they all went, Haribol. They very enthusiastic. And then you know what happened? Please listen carefully. After Lord Chaitanya prayed to Jagannath to fill Paramananda Puri's well with Ganges water, Lord Chaitanya left and went to sleep. That night, the goddess Ganges took that order as her life and soul, because for Mother Ganges, Lord Jagannath is Lord Chaitanya. And she filled the well. The next morning, when the devotees, woke up and they went to Paramananda Puri to visit him, the well was absolutely crystal clear, clean, aromatic. It was just beautiful. They were celebrating. Lord Chaitanya's prayer has come true. They circumambulated it again and again. And then the news came to Lord Chaitanya. And when he came, he gave a benediction. Because this is Paramananda Puri's well, the place of Paramananda Puri, anybody who drinks this water, who bathes in this water, who sees this water, who touches this water, will be liberated from all suffering and will be given Krishna Prema. Pure love for Krishna. That, Lord Chaitanya said, that is the power of Paramananda Puri's love. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took a bucket from that well and he drank it off. He drank it, he bathed in it, and all the devotees chanted Hari Bol very loudly. And then everyone was drinking that water and bathing in that water. And Paramananda Puri was so humble, he fainted. He fainted in gratitude for the mercy of the Lord. To appreciate this story, this is how much the Lord glorifies, appreciates, and is even subordinate to the love and the affection of a person who wants to simply be forever a shrub of grass for everyone to step on in Vrindavan. What is devotion? It's natural that we get mixed up by the modes of material nature. And we're chanting the holy names, many of us, and we're trying to follow the path of bhakti yoga the best we possibly can. But still, that tendency, I want to be admired, I want to be honored, I want a higher position, I want better facilities, I want all of these things. But Uddhava, Paramananda Puri, his value, let me be a piece of grass. The gopis won't even know I'm here. If they know it's me, they won't step on me. Let me just be an unknown little piece of grass so that the gopis will step on me and the gopas will step on even the cows. That was his standard of what was actually important in life. In other words, to be the servant of the servant of the servant for pleasing Krishna through our love. Whatever it takes for us to connect to that love is the most valuable thing in all of the creation. And what does it take? It simply takes our sincerity. Srila Prabhupada quotes Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami that pure love of God, prema bhakti, is very rare. But Krishna gives it easily if we are serious, sincere, and do not have ulterior motives. Association of devotees, satsang, is the most valuable thing in all of creation because it helps us to recognize what we should truly consider meaningful and valuable in our life. As Gauravani Prabhu was speaking before I came to the microphone, in the last couple of years, so many exalted, saintly, worshipable devotees and loved ones have left this world. And it is unbearable. At the same time, the short time we're here and the short time we can have connections with people who truly inspire our hearts, that connection is forever, if we value it. Bhakti Vinod Thakur wrote that poem that he reasons ill who say that Vaishnavas die, because thou art living still and sound. Vaishnavas die to live, and live to spread the holy name around. That love and separation is actually the deepest connection. Srila Prabhupada came to the United States to carry out the order of his spiritual master about 40 years after he got the instruction. About 30 years after his Guru Maharaj departed from this world. Srila Prabhupada said, there's never a moment when I'm not feeling the presence of my Guru Maharaj. And even 30, 40 years after his Guru left this world, he was still totally excited to please his Guru through his service. Because on the spiritual level, separation is an intimate connection. And when we remember our times with great souls and we cry for them, our tears have real meaning when we're really trying to reciprocate with what they've given us. Then we're actually more together than physically. One time a devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, I'm living on another side of the world, I hardly see you. And Srila Prabhupada said, who's the closest person to me right now? Physically, it's this fly that's on my head. But, what is the relationship? You might be physically close. So if you're physically close, but you're just disturbing me, what is... The real closeness is in valuing the faith, the mercy, and the love of another. In bhakti, death does not separate us. If we've really valued the spiritual essence of our relationship, death brings us together, closer. Because it's not death. It just brings our union to another level. According to what we value in each other, what we value in every situation that comes to our life, and how we adjust ourselves to be closer to Krishna in those situations. So I have just completed my weather report for today. It's actually beautiful. If it wasn't for the clouds, you would all be burning in the sun for so many hours. And the anticipation that it might rain actually I could see you were all more awake than most times. And yes, if it doesn't rain, we're so grateful. Oh, how wonderful we could sit under the shade of the clouds. And if it does rain, we just start dancing and singing in the rain. That is an allegory of life. Thank you very much. Maharaj Yudhisthira, he was the emperor of the world. But where did he choose to be? His deepest prayer was to be a tree on the bank of Shamakund. Radhanath Das Goswami was a multi-billionaire, and he was the singular heir to the fortune of his entire family. And he considered the value of Lord Chaitanya's service so important. He left everything to live in Puri just in the simplest ways. And then he eventually came to live in this little paddy field. When he first came, Radhakund and Shamakund were just two puddles in a field. Nobody knew what it was, but Lord Chaitanya recognized. So he left beautiful palaces, wealth, everything a person could possibly want materially in the world, just to live under some trees in a paddy field. And he considered this the most priceless gift. To be at the place that Radha and Krishna hold so dear to their hearts. And when he was excavating Radhakund and Shamakund, Yudhisthira Maharaj appeared to him in a dream and said, I'm living with my brothers as 5 trees near Shamakund, and your people are about to cut us down. But we want to stay here. We want to be here as trees to meditate on Radha and Krishna's pastimes. The emperor of the world is trading his position to be a tree. Now, what are we supposed to learn about this? The value of what bhakti is. The value of what love of God is. And unless we really treasure that value, we will be distracted. We'll be devoured by all of the egoistic interpretations of what happiness is. So with this mood, let us have kirtan.